One of the most famous and most important artists right over there on that corner is where he was born, and that is Pablo Picasso. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Málaga, Spain. We're back here in Málaga today, out on a beautiful sunny day here in Málaga. Today we are in the Plaza de la Merced. This is Plaza de la Merced in Málaga. Beautiful, beautiful plaza. Birds are out chirping, people are out hanging out, having a good time, and today we're actually here to see two very interesting museums related to one of the most famous and most important artists in all of history, who was born right here in Málaga. In fact, right over there on that corner is where he was born, and that is Pablo Picasso. We're gonna go over there and see the museum of the house, the birth house of Pablo Picasso, his childhood home right over there. And a few blocks down over that way is the Picasso Gallery, the Museo Picasso here in Málaga. Very cool, very extensive collection, very famous museum here in Málaga. So, come along. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you want to help out the channel and help it grow, I really would appreciate it. Click on the like button down there, the subscribe button, and the little bell next to it to be notified for when new videos drop. It really helps the channel grow because it's going to help the YouTube algorithm recognize this content and spread it to other YouTube viewers. If you'd like to support the channel monetarily, I would appreciate that as well. You can leave a super thanks by clicking this thanks button here and give a small donation to the channel. I appreciate your support. So back to the video, enjoy. Before even entering the museum, right here in the plaza, on the corner of the plaza that's closest to the museum, there is a statue of Picasso sitting here on the bench. This is Picasso in his later years. And just behind that is the Casa Natal, Picasso's birthplace house, which has now, of course, been converted into a museum. The first floor has a small but very interesting gallery here. This actually focuses on Picasso's early years. He grew up around other artists at the Málaga School, a school of painting here in Málaga, at which there were many artists, including Pablo Picasso's father, José Ruiz Blasco, who these artists inspired Picasso. And you can see here on the wall this photograph of Picasso's father teaching at the school, along here with a portrait of Picasso's father, Blasco. And in this small section of the gallery, there's works from Picasso himself, like this like etching, and also these pen and ink drawings, but also works from some of the other artists at the school, the Málaga School of Painting, that inspired Picasso. Around the corner, there is a section that is very interesting. It's dedicated to Picasso's works that he did of a nude model at a nude modeling workshop. And these are original sketches in his sketchbook. This is like an extremely rare find of the sketches that he just did in a notebook, experimenting with different forms of how to express the figure of a nude model. And these all went into a very famous work of Picasso's, Las Señoritas de Avignon, which they actually have here as well. You can see how the sketches sort of laid the building blocks for what would eventually end up in the painting. Very interesting to see how these sketches ultimately became this painting. And here at the foot of the stairs on the first floor, a little cutout of little boy Pablo Picasso, Picasso as a boy. And when we go upstairs, we enter the section that is like the preserved section of the house dedicated to Picasso's family, La Familia. And the quote here on the wall: "My mother said to me, if you are a soldier, you will become a general. If you are a monk, you will become the Pope. Instead, I was a painter, and I became Picasso. So, no shortage of ego on Picasso, but he's allowed to have an ego because of his truly his greatness as an artist. It's important to note here that Picasso, unlike, for example, Vincent van Gogh, was famous, very, very famous as an artist during his career and during his lifetime. There are some artists that only become famous after their death. Picasso was not one of them. He was extremely famous as an artist during his lifetime. Here's some more pictures. This is Picasso, little boy Picasso in the center with his mother and father on the two sides. And some like small rooms here with recreations of the house, what it would have been like, dining room, recreation of a sitting room or like a living room. And in this section as well, a short timeline of Picasso's life from his birth in 1881. This here, an application to the School of Fine Arts, where his father was a professor, and his first painting here, or one of his first paintings, from when he was only 14 years old. You can already see the skill and talent that he had at a young age. And this painting is a very realistic painting. This is in the realist style that was quite popular, of course, in the second half of the 1800s. The timeline continues on, shows other works in other styles that Picasso did later in life, but also this painting here of these pigeons, this is actually done by Picasso's father, who raised pigeons, and these pigeons actually became like a theme for Picasso in his works in the future. Palomas, the word for pigeons in Spanish. He actually did several different works, paintings, drawings of pigeons, and actually named one of his daughters Paloma. He also had an interesting, like a magazine here that Picasso had done some illustrations in. What I think is really amazing about Picasso's work is just the different media, different styles that he worked in. He wasn't just a painter, he wasn't doing just drawings, he was doing all of these things. Painting, drawing, sculpting. And then here in this next section, all dedicated to bullfighting, which of course, very popular in Spain. Here a photograph of Picasso at a bullfight, along with some ceramic pieces that Picasso made depicting bulls. And then this I thought was really interesting, this section of 9 watercolors. And these are, if you look closely, these are just black watercolor paint on paper, just the bare minimum that you would need to express the shapes. But even with this very minimalist style, you can tell exactly what you're looking at when you look at these. You can tell that it's a bullfight. You can tell what's going on. You can see the bulls out in the pasture here relaxing. It's just a very interesting style and something that I thought was very cool and that they included here in this section. And to end the museum tour, there's a picture of Picasso in his old age, as well as this voice recording that you can actually listen to if you scan the QR code there, which I thought was really very cool to be in the museum in the house where Picasso was born, to be able to see his work across the years, and to also be able to listen to his voice. Spectacular. But now, just a short walk away, a few blocks, we go to the Picasso Gallery, the Picasso Museum here in Malaga. And this is a much larger museum with, this beautiful old Spanish building with the courtyard in the middle, and many, many galleries, all dedicated, all filled with Picasso's works. And once again, many different styles, different media, sculpture, ceramics. There were paintings of different styles, drawings, pen and ink, and pencil drawings. And in the first hall, these two specifically stood out. This is a photo or a painting from early in Picasso's career of just a man's head, and a painting from later in Picasso's career towards the end of his life of a man's head. And Picasso, so many different styles, but his early career was in realism, which was the popular style at the time. but he was someone who was very inspired by early modernist painters and led the evolution of art into modernism of the 20th century. Abstract art as opposed to realist art. Also influenced by many, many different forms of art from different places all over the world. This short section here of Picasso and African sculpture, where there's a few of these African-inspired sculptures that Picasso made. Each one of the halls is separated distinctly by different eras and different styles in Picasso's career. This, the Cubist style, which something that is probably what Picasso is known for, more abstract art, even though he did begin his career in a realist style. And they have many Cubist pieces here, all on different media. Like this one is on wood. There are some on paper and some on canvas. Very cool to see the different media that Picasso worked in. And here on the wall of this gallery, a huge photo from floor to ceiling, gigantic blown up photo of Picasso's workshop. Picasso also widely famous for his depiction of women, portraits of women in different styles, of course, from simple pen and ink sketches to charcoal drawings, more abstract and more realistic, oil paintings, as well as some that become so abstract that it's hard to even see what it is that he's trying to depict. A small subsection here was on Picasso's work on wood specifically, and you can see these pieces where he is painting on wood panels. Outside of that hall, in this large area here, there is a big timeline, a sweeping timeline of Picasso's life from his very, very early years, where you see both photographs from his life, but also the paintings underneath of the styles and the pieces that he did during that era. And you can see here the painting of the man's head, the realist painting that we saw earlier in the gallery. Moving on into the early 20th century, as Picasso was beginning his adult life, traveling to Paris and experimenting with the Cubist style. You can see the pieces here. And this timeline, very extensive, very in-depth. Moving on into the years of Picasso getting married, starting a family, and showing works here that Picasso did of his children. There are many pieces that he did that were portraits of his children. And on into the war years, specifically of the Spanish Civil War and World War II, and probably one of Picasso's most famous pieces here, Guernica. This, of course, just not the piece itself, a photograph of the piece, but this is one of Pablo Picasso's most famous pieces, and it is a depiction of the Spanish Civil War. And on into the post-war period, more works in different media, and his final years, some of the pieces that he's most famous for in the style that he is probably most well known. In the next hall, this was actually a temporary exhibition that was actually quite cool. It is an artist named Farah Atassi. She's a current artist, a contemporary artist, still producing art. She's Syrian Belgian, living in Paris, and these works that they have here are clearly Picasso inspired. Her style is very reminiscent of Picasso. Most of the works that she has depict a woman in like a simple setting, like an apartment, sitting at a table, lying on a couch, and it's very interesting. She uses very similar shapes, sometimes even the exact same shape of the woman, but in a different setting, and you can recognize it very clearly when these paintings are beside each other in the gallery. Not all of the paintings are depicted in indoor locations. There was one here of a woman lying on a beach, which I thought was very cool. A very interesting little break in the Picasso Museum, and only a temporary exhibit. A small section in the next room about Picasso, his works with printing. A printing press here that he actually owned, and the different tools explaining how the printings were made by etching on metal plates and then covering the metal plates with ink and running them through the printing press here. Quite interesting. Like I mentioned before, Picasso worked in multiple different styles, and this is just one of them. Some of the sections less so about chronological, like an era in Picasso's career, but more about a certain theme to the art. The transformation of mind and body, and showing different depictions of the body or the head, the face. This ceramic piece here that is a human head, as well as sketches and paintings, this very abstract version of a human face. But once again, many different styles, many different media. These pieces from after the Second World War, these are, I think, what people would most immediately think of as Picasso's style when first, if the first thing that would come to your mind if you said, what does a Picasso painting look like? It would be these paintings. Very abstract, very interesting pieces. And continuing on in the post-war era, the different experimentations that Picasso continued late into his life, including sculpture, experimenting with different media, experimenting with new styles. This, I think this one is very interesting. This is actually oil, charcoal, and sand on a canvas. And you can actually see, if you look very closely, that you can see the texture of the sand that is used within like the charcoal and the oil paint. So it's a very interesting experimentation with different substances. And there are more and more pieces here. This collection is it's a very large collection. And Picasso, of course, a prolific artist who produced thousands of pieces throughout his lifetime. There are a ton here. This section, very short section here, but very interesting, about the UNESCO mural. Picasso, very famous for a mural that he painted on the wall of the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. And they actually have some of the original sketches where he was sketching out ideas for sections of the mural ahead of time. To have these preserved here is truly spectacular, and it's very cool to see something that he was very famous for, but to see the beginnings of the ideas of it here. And here in the final section, they note here on the wall that there was an exhibition. His final exhibition basically was 201 paintings that he painted during the final 3 years of his life. And they actually have 6 of these paintings here in this final section. An amazing collection, honestly. And there are many Picasso museums around the world because of how famous he was during his career and after his death. But this one, being in the city where he was born, I think is truly special. All right, that was an excellent museum. Truly excellent collection. I'm continuously amazed by the variety of Picasso's work, both different styles, different media, the length of his life. I mean, he was born in the late 1800s, 1881, lived all the way till like 1970, 73, and was working more or less like the entire time since he was 15 all the way up until his death. So an extensive collection, really something to see. And just the variety in styles is truly amazing. We end here, right out the exit That little alley is where you exit from the museum, and you end up here out in this beautiful plaza that is actually right across from an old Roman theater, the ruins of a Roman theater, and behind it, the fortress, a Moorish fortress, the Alcazaba, which we're actually going to be seeing in another video, but you're gonna have to stay tuned for that. I think that's gonna do it for this video. This was a really good experience, going to the house where Picasso was born and seeing this great collection here at the Picasso Museum in Malaga. So if you're here in Malaga, definitely come check these things out. They're right next to each other. They're in walking distance from each other. You can easily check them both out in the same day. Definitely do that. Worth it 100%. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. Plenty more coming from here in Malaga, and we'll see you next time.